for the Tag and Brando podcast. It's Taggart.
What up?
And me, Brando. How's it doing, everybody?
I don't know about everybody, but I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I am doing really, really good.
Nice,
it is
man.
A great couple of things we got in store for you guys today. Something that we do every week that we're not doing a game of some sort is the question of the day. Something we're just gonna, kind of play with, try to figure out, just talk about.
Yeah.
We're gonna go through the memory banks with the triggered memory and kind of just rustle up some stories from the past. And then you're going to get a new from each of us. Something that we did or learned or came across this week. And we're going to hopefully get some interactions with you guys through the Instagram and Twitter and Gmail account for Tag and Brando. Just decide to put it up top, Like, some people don't listen all the way to the end.
Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
Shout out to the true crew out there that are dedicated listeners and everything. We got a message from one of our true crewers.
We did,
Ray.
Yeah. Verbal shout
out there.
Whoa.
Yeah. Ray and Allison out there. Basically, it just reminds me how much, what the true crew really means in the fact that you could just, you miss them, but when you get back together, it's like no time has passed. You're just right back in. It's just story of current life, story of past life, mixed in with what's going on, thoughts and feelings and everything, and you just roll with whatever's happening. It's awesome. So, yeah, if you want to hit us up with your true crew thoughts and feelings, just let us know on Twitter or Gmail, tagandbrando@gmail.com, or just follow us on Instagram. Be that guy for once.
For once. Yikes.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get into the meat of this here. All right. This is something that has been running through my brain ever since I was a little kid.
Okay.
The question of the day today is, how do you think telekinesis would work? Like moving objects with your mind.
Yes.
What are the limitations? How do you visualize it? What are the capabilities? We've seen it in movies and TV and comics and everything. But how do you feel like you're moving objects with your mind, the physics of it? What do you got?
What do I think the physics are?
Well, not necessarily a little bit
okay.
Mass and inertia and those kinds of things. I just hit my microphone with my watch. But yeah, those kinds of things it's easy to say I would just be able to pick up this rock. It's I'll give you a for instance. Can you lift with your mind more than you can lift with your body? A heavy rock, a car.
Okay.
Etc.
Well, let's step back first, I think.
Okay.
In this, at least for me, from where I want to, my jumping off point here would be to say that I think telekinesis, like being someone's body and picking something up, would act much like a muscle. You have to train it. You have to get stronger with it. You start very small. Needles, peas, small things.
I'm sorry, what was the first thing you said?
Needles.
Oh, I thought you said Neils.
Yeah.
Patrick Harris.
Well, Neil Patrick Harris is small, but not as small as some. Looking at
Right.
you, Bilbo.
Oh.
So yeah, I would think that you could possibly build up to the point where it's stronger than your body.
Okay.
I've also always kind of thought since the brain is a pretty powerful organ in one's body. Yeah, that I could easily see it being more powerful than your muscles, if it was then to be transferred into a physical ability like telekinesis.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So yeah, I would. Okay. There would be strain involved, I think. Going with the muscle thing, I don't think it's like effortless. You don't just look at something and be like, unless it's a needle and you're really strong in your telekinesis, right? A needle and then a needle and, just keep building it up. I would think there would be some kind of strain, just like picking up something. Some things are easy to pick up, but if you're picking up 50 to 100 pounds, even if you're strong, that's, there's some strain to that. So I would assume that would carry over to our telekinesis brain. And how the visualization work, I'm not sure. I would, I don't know if it's like, who is it? Matilda, who can move things with her brain?
Yes.
Right. She just concentrates on it real hard, and then it moves. I think, I don't know. I would think it would be somewhat more involved than just staring and moving. But I don't know.
Because like you think about it in movies and such, like, I mean, you got Jean Grey who just touches her temple kind of a thing and just, picks up an object with, and in the comics they have to visualize it like a beam coming from her head that envelops the object and lifts it and everything like that. And in the cartoons and in the TV show and stuff, it's like, she can do it without moving, but most people, when they're depicted in telekinesis, maybe it's an acting choice or whatever, they're like reaching their hand out and like moving, like their hand casting the thing away or, kind of pulling it apart or whatever it might be. And that kind of, for me, is kind of a baby step to the visualization of it. Like,
sure,
your go-to is to pick up something with your limbs. Some people are polydextrous, and that's awesome, and everything. But like, when you think about like, I'm gonna move this pen with my mind, you're thinking like, like the motion I'm going for is this, but I'm a distance away, so I'm gonna do it with my hand. And that is going to help me visualize the force on the pen or the pencil or whatever and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I just visualize that as like you're being physical to mimic the act to help, like you said, with visualization or with the movement of it or whatever. Which, it's like a singer or whatever, Christine Aguilera doing the hand thing, which she gets up high or whatever. Or, people who are really animated when they talk and talk with their hands for the emphasis. It's to me, that equates to the same kind of thing. So, no, I can see that.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Like, yeah, like when, a lot of people will do that when it's like they're singing like a different octaves and stuff. They'll be like, and they'll put their hand up and down to kind of help them visualize, like, I gotta go up and down
Right.
A question for another time is like the term high and low for sound. Like, where did
Oh.
that come from? You know, why didn't we
Okay.
go like small and big or whatever? Anyway, doesn't matter. So,
But like
talk about that
another example of just that is
later.
if the people out there know about Bobby McFerrin. Have I talked about Bobby McFerrin on this podcast? I think
You
so.
did talk
I think
about
so.
yeah.
Because now I'm reminded because it's kind of my goal in life. One thing that he does sometimes when he sings, he fingers his microphone like he's like playing a flute or a trumpet or some kind of instrument, and it's the same kind of thing. Like he's playing the notes with his fingers, but he's singing it.
Right.
So yeah, just same kind of
he-
just visualization.
Does he play the flute? Does he play a wind instrument?
I don't know if he does play a wind instrument, but he plays piano. He's actually a very good piano player, and that's how he started out. He started out as a piano player, and then one day was like, you know what? Nah, I'm a singer. And then
Right.
from there, so
So that's a good parallel there, just to be like, we have these visual concepts of abstract things, vocal ranges and stuff like that, and yeah, you would move your hand in, and so my follow up question to that is, if you're going to pick up an object, what do you think would be like the limitations on like what you're actually what part of the object you're actually manipulating and how much of the object is just going with that because it's attached.
Right.
Think of like a purse or something, or
Sure.
like a bag.
you could grab the handle, you could grab the bag,
Yeah,
corner,
exactly.
whatever. No, I like this
can-
question. I think of it kind of like the crane game. Okay, so you're
Okay, yeah.
no, your brain is the crane, and since you're working in physical space, I'm sure there is the equivalent of grabbing too soon and missing completely.
Right. Because
Right?
if you're doing the crane, properly with like, and you got more than one person, you're looking at it in one dimension, right? From the joystick,
Right.
/ arrow buttons, like that suck. Like, ugh.
Right.
Well, sometimes they have like that little ball, and then you got your friend on the y-axis.
Right. He's like, come more, overstop.
Yeah. Up. Because it's hard to judge. Hard to judge depth
And
accurately. It's easier to judge side to side. Yeah.
So I think starting out, you would have that. You'd go for it and you'd miss it, or you'd go too far and you'd bump it, or whatever. Because you're interacting with the physical world. So somehow there's an overlap, right? Where that's happening. Just like throwing a football too. Like you get better and you can hit when you get good, you can hit where you're going, kind of thing. I would think that there is something like that. So,
So like a baseball player, like literally physically cannot see the baseball coming at them at 95 miles an hour. Like they're from the distance from the pitcher to the plate is not enough for a baseball player to recognize that this ball is going to be in this part of the strike zone. They have to just go off of the movements and the body actions of the pitcher, and then their body's just like, this is a slider, this is going to go left, this is not worth hitting, because by the time their brain registers that the ball has been released, they have to be mid-swing, or else they're going to whiff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think all that plays like it's brain-eye coordination. Like, you definitely are limited from what you can see, or not. I mean, you can probably get into spaces you can't see, but then you're just grabbing in the dark like you would with your hand. You're like, I don't know, maybe it's over here.
Well, yeah, because that's also another element to this. Not to derail what you're saying, but
right.
What is also the feedback that you get. Like if you're going to pick up an object that's like behind another object, like there's no element there to feel. You're not rummaging around with your hands and the nerves in your hand say, "Oh yeah, that's what I want. Grab and go." You you have to know it's there.
I would think there would be some general feeling, just like if you had a dead hand and you had no feeling in your hand, you can feel if it's closed all the way or if it's not. And if it's not, and you reach for something, you would be like, okay, there's probably something in my hand now. I can't close it anymore. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking of it kind of as an appendage of some sort, though I would assume that you could kind of broaden its birth. It's not like a hand where it's limited size. Like you could make it bigger and make it wider kind of grab or smaller for a more minuscule kind of thing. But I would think once you kind of clasp it, for lack of a better word, if you could feel if it's closed all the way or if it's not, kind of thing. I don't know if you agree.
Because no, I totally agree. Because like it'd be interesting to kind of build this up, and maybe this is a power that some people might have hypothetically, but it is such a foreign concept. It'd be like sewing on a prehensile tail,
right?
And somebody's just like I don't know what to do with this, and that's why babies are just like wiggling their limbs around, because they're like I was bunched up in this
these work?
warm little sack for forever when like these things came into existence. I don't know where this goes or what to do, and like I'm gonna fall over if I try to get on, like do what you're doing, like stand up and everything. So if you think about it as like you start out and you're just kind of training yourself, like I'm gonna push this thing with my hand, kind of like in Ghost, right?
Sure.
But the opposite. like in Ghost, he's using his body to interact with the physical world, but he's using, like, the limitation is his perception of his body. Like he's trying to move the penny with his finger over and over again, just passing through it until he gets and it moves, right?
Right.
And that's kind of like what you would do, is you would be like, okay, I'm going to start 2 inches from my hand, and I'm just going to try to move it. I'm just going to interact with it. I'm going to push it. And then whether you see it move or you feel, like you said, some kind of phantom appendage pushing it, would be a very different kind of thing, because the phantom appendage, then you'd be like, sweet, now I can like reach in behind something with my mind and do something, or I can do, unlock something very finicky, like get in like an actual lock, and like, okay, I'm going to push up the pins and I'm going to move the tumbler and we're in, right? Kind of a thing. Versus like, oh, well, I literally can only visualize my hand like turning the knob. So like, like I'll turn it from the inside. Like, it's kind of a different concept. Manipulating something very small that your hands can't do without tools. And then on the opposite side of that, manipulating something very big, like lifting a car. Even if your hands were like super strong, if you like just reached into a car door and lifted, you'd probably like just rip the car door or just tear through the sheet metal, Like you think of like a forklift, like if it's not getting under the frame, it's just going to shred the sheet metal of the off the car. So yeah, these are the kinds of things I've been thinking about. So
you'd have to, I mean, the real life physics would have to apply. So you can't just grab it at the door with your brain and be like, lifting cars now, even if you were that strong. and yeah,
Well, yeah, because something else I've thought about too is like along those same kind of lines is also like when you're lifting something or moving something, um, you know, friction plays a big role, right? Like
sure,
if you are trying to lift, like, if you're trying to palm a basketball and you don't have big enough hands, you can't get enough friction on the surface to hold it, right, from the and
right,
everything. Whereas if you're trying to like lift a rock like out of the ground that's like barely peeking above the ground, usually you'd have to dig around that till you got enough purchase
right,
underneath and
right,
then pull up. Whereas, would you be able to visualize yourself like, okay, I don't have to push the dirt out of the way because I can get underneath it with my mind and pull it up, or I can
right.
I can envelop this person in a comfortable type grip, let's say,
Uh-huh.
to
Uh-huh.
lift their body weight, because if somebody
Right.
just grabs you by the torso as a 200-pound man and just lifts you up, not very comfortable. you know it's
No.
it's yeah.
No. So, and just thinking about it, um, we're kind of speaking of this second appendage that's reaching out and doing all this stuff, but it's really your brain really that's right
Mm-hmm.
doing it. So as you're speaking
Mm-hmm.
of friction and these kinds of things, if there was friction that needed to be created on our side to pick it up, say with the basketball or whatever, um,
Mm-hmm.
I think you would feel, where you would feel it on your fingers. Of course, if you were picking up with your fingers, I think
Mm-hmm.
you might feel that kind of feedback somehow in your brain. Does that make sense?
Right. Well, you
Also,
would.
like if you built
Mm-hmm.
like put up a wall almost like in front of you, and
Mm-hmm.
because there was a bomb or something. Like obviously this is an extreme example, but if a bomb goes off and you have blocked it with your telekinesis, so it doesn't hit you
Mm-hmm.
physically, that's still going to
Ooh.
reverberate back onto your brain. Do you know what I mean? Because your brain is
Okay.
taking all the force just like your hand would if
Mm-hmm.
if it's a high five or something. Um,
Okay. So if somebody's gonna punch you and you just stop their arm, their hand, their fist, basically with your mind, you're saying
right.
that your mind is absorbing the force of that punch.
Yeah. However, that would be translated. It would be you. That would be
Mm-hmm.
at least felt. There would be some kind of
Mm-hmm.
transference
Well,
of that
energy's got to go
force
somewhere, right?
somehow. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, it might sometimes in comics and movies and things like this. It you can see it against the person, right? They're pressing against something really hard or whatever, and they're pressing back against their mind
Mm-hmm.
wall or whatever, and it's a
Right.
physical response on the telekinesis side that they're leaning into it and they're trying not to be pushed back physically. So I don't know if it would transfer to their physical body that way or if it would all be mental strain.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Because
but I think
because
there
you
would
think
be
about
some.
mm-hmm. Because you think about some of the examples that we do have. We mentioned Jean Grey. I think Green Lantern is essentially kind of another telekinetic personage. It's just their manifestations are visible, right?
Right.
Like they're making the machine gun, the chainsaw, the shield, all that kind of different stuff out of this
Right.
green
But
energy.
it's not coming
Hmm?
from their brain necessarily. It's coming from
It's coming
their
from the
their
ring,
their
but
will.
their will, exactly. So, like, physically, it's a energy, energy
Yeah, it's
source
like a
from the ring. But like you said, you know, a Green Lantern's only as good as their willpower to
right. It's
do
a
something.
manifestation of their emotion,
Hmm. Yeah. And
which is
so if they get distracted or they get fatigued or something like that, then those things become weaker and more vulnerable and all that kind of different stuff. So yeah, like
Right.
however you're like, manipulating the object, I think you would need some kind of feedback. Like you said, you would have to be able to kind of sense its movement, its weight,
Right.
kind of thing. Because, yeah, like, I mean, like, if you go to pick up something, how many times, like, have you tried to lift, like, a large box? It might not be heavy, but it's just awkward, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so do you have multiple points, like 2 arms and a chest, to hold a box? Or do you just have one point of energy and you're like, okay, I am focusing in on the center of gravity for this object, and that's where I'm going to lift it from. But at the same time, if it's a small enough pinpoint and you pull the center of gravity, that could just rip the whole thing in half.
Or
just
topple it over, or right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, interesting. I think my thought left me. Sorry.
Willpower, man.
Shoot, no, it really did. Oh, I'm sorry. I lost it completely.
No worries. So, so this is just something like, if you're out there trying to harness your telekinetic powers, you really got to kind of look at it as like, how are you trying to move it? What are you trying to move? Are you going against? Oh, go ahead.
Right. So I guess the other alternative would be if you didn't know, if you didn't have any feedback on the weight and the distribution, and when you picked it up, like how gravity was going to play with it, it would have to be like an actual mind power where you could do all those calculations in your head before you picked it up, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that would be the only other alternative that I could think of. Even if, because you're mentally interacting with the physical world, so you'd have to have some kind of feedback, or you'd have to be able to, completely internalize all the mathematics to make it work properly.
Right, and and my buddy Mike mentioned this kind of because I was like talking about it one day. I was like, man, I really wish I could like calculate, the speed of a car, or like the height of something, or the distance from one point to another, just like in my mind, just know the numbers, right? Right. And he's like, well, you kind of do that just without the numbers. Right. Like you can give yourself, like when you're driving, you're like, this car is going too fast for me to make this, left turn. Like I'm going to wait. Right. And all that kind of stuff. Right. Or the craziest thing to me, again, back to the baseball example with, hitting a fastball is that intuitive, like I'm not paying attention and something's coming at me. I'm going to catch it like out of the corner of my eye. It's not heading directly for my face. So I'm not looking at it with my binocular vision and determining like when I put my hand in front of my face. It's off to the side, and like I'm diving for this ball, and I'm like, you played Ultimate more than I did, but Ultimate Frisbee is like this amazing, like I can get this, and I like the thing is behind me, and I'm reaching out, and I got it, like those kind of grabs,
Right.
And so in your mind, you need that feedback, because like if you went to catch something or stop something that you couldn't, you'd either have to see it or know that your aura, or whatever you want to call it, did its job.
Right. Mm-hmm. And if you could, if you could actually manipulate the size of whatever the force is that you're providing, then that would make it a little easier. If something flew at you, you could just make it real big and, try to put as much force behind it as you could to just kind of block it, kind of thing. But I think you're right. As you get better and better at it, even if you would have to do the mathematics in your brain, it would be become second nature and would become instantaneous kind of thing. Oh, this is this, and I'll pick it up without you having to think, okay, where's the tipping point and where's the center of gravity and how far away is it, right? You know, we don't necessarily like think those things when a ball's coming at us and we're like, okay, so it's probably about 10 feet away right now if I wait, and then I'm going to move my hand to about...
Because you'd miss it.
Right. 170 degrees from my face or whatever it is, you know. Yeah, you'd just be like, oh, whoops. So I guess, you're right. We kind of do that anyways, and it would get easier and easier as you go. So,
I think the two things to focus on would be, like kind of expanding your reach, like both in distance, longevity, how long can you hold something up or whatever, and also how much of the object are you manipulating? Are you grabbing the bag by the handle? Are you grabbing the bag, as a whole? And all the, and the bag is holding the contents. Are you able to hold, in your mind, all of the contents and everything so that you can hold the bag and then pull the lipstick out of it? You know what I mean? Like, it'd be very fascinating. Right. To have this power and to sit there and kind of think about what kind of things can you do? Can you go minute? Can you go microscopic? If you're, can you perform brain surgery on somebody without having to go in, actually operate on them? Can you remove a blockage in someone's heart just by going in there, not Superman or style that you gotta laser open, or Neo from the Matrix, more where you can kind of go in there and just squeeze their heart without opening their chest.
Well, the interesting thing with that is that, again, at some point, it's not really a tangible reaction, but it is, or interaction, I should say, because obviously you're picking it up, but yeah, your substance or whatever, right? Your aura or your mental beam is not a physical thing; it's in your brain. So, so thinking in that way, I guess it would be. You would technically be able to do that. You go in and say, okay, this is the mass, and if I calculate it perfectly and only grab the tumor, since I'm not physically manifesting anything, nothing around it's going to get touched. I'm just going to pull that out. Though the thing is, where do you go with it? Right?
Well,
if there's no opening, incision or anything, that the mass is still physical. So you'd have to take it somewhere, but that would be the only limitation. In my brain, I guess. Pun intended.
That's true. I guess, if we take the example of somebody's having a heart attack and they have a blockage, your two choices really, without damaging the vessel, are to go backwards to where the blockage came from, which is potentially bigger. Or to push the blockage through
or do a mental angioplasty. Go, if there's a little opening, in it and then expand out to push it against the walls.
Right. So you could expand it out and then the blockage would keep going, but you'd have to go in there and break the blockage apart, which is another question. Could you, again, do you have one entity that you can...
I guess that's the thing, You could go in, if you can go microscopic or really small, at least you could go in and just pull off little pieces of it.
Right.
And say, flush away, until it's all gone. Right.
Because that was always what got me with like Magneto in a couple of things. Like Magneto, I mean, manipulating metal with magnetic fields, essentially telekinesis. Just same thing with like anybody from Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's just an isolated, object category. But how does he rip something apart through magnetism? Like, he's got to have two magnetic fields that are competing for the same piece of metal that in and of itself, once it has one magnetic field applied to it, then has its own magnetic field. Like you put a magnet on a nail and you pick up a paperclip kind of a thing. Like,
right.
So like as a telekinetic person, can you look at something that has structure and cohesion and atoms joining it together and actually pull it apart like you would with two hands?
I mean, I think you could have as many
appendages or whatever
grasping points as you would want, as long as your brain can handle the strain,
right?
And if you can get microscopic, then you could go in and say, okay, this atom and pull it out or whatever. So I would have.
Yikes!
I mean,
don't do it.
I mean, it's scary, but yeah, that's an interesting thing because you could a little
fission
a little fission action and say, well, you know what? I got a bomb and it's this molecule. Boom. Which would be crazy.
Right.
That would be actually awesome. Destructive, but awesome. But anyways, yeah. I think you could get that finite again. The only way to practice on that, though, would be able to see it, and
right.
to know what you're feeling for. So you'd have to be able to, like, I could do it, but I need a microscope. I need an electron microscope, please. And I'm going to blow you all up.
Yeah, it kind of depends, because if we have a physical feedback, if we have a tendril out there kind of a thing that, like, I know if I'm holding this object, I know if I'm
sure. I'm just saying, to get to the point where you could recognize the feel of an atom, you would have to see it many times to get to the point where, okay, I got the electron here, I got the proton or whatever.
Right.
Just like, again, the familiarity of grabbing a Frisbee out of the air from just your peripheral vision, it doesn't start that way. You get hit in the face with a Frisbee a lot. With an atom, you'd have to be able to see it a lot first to then build up to that being more second nature.
You'd have to pick something super cold as well. Because if you're picking any molecule, even if it's in a solid object like a table or like a rock or something, that thing is still buzzing around in there, and so you have to pick something super cold to be like, okay, this is the atom I'm going for. You get out of the way. I need this guy.
Right. And even then, like, the strain of that, just to be so small and to also handle something that's moving so much, would be intense.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, cool. Okay, so we just created a new, supervillain, somebody who can, split atoms with their mind, but
the atomizer
takes a lot of concentration, a lot of pinpointing things down.
Right.
Oh, well, no, thank you for indulging me on that. I like that question a lot, and it's got a lot of facets that even since I don't know if they've all been touched upon. So
yeah, we went into some uncharted uncharted as well. Territories there.
Yeah.
So, very good. Speaking of uncharted territories for a minute, we at all one point were children, and haven't been for a quick minute, getting to our triggered memory today. And this is in the truest sense of triggered memory. Smell is, of course, a sense that many people have said are very connected to memory and reminding us of things. You know, when sometimes you smell something, you're like, okay, now I'm remembering this place and when we did this. So I wanted to ask you if there was any particular smell or smells that you, whenever it hits you, you're like, okay, I am a child now. This reminds me of my childhood. I'm doing this or that.
Yeah, so I really need to figure out what plant this is.
Uh-huh.
But there is like a specific type of bush, I want to say.
Okay.
It's got, pretty small leaves, maybe like a little less than an inch, and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I didn't get it. It wasn't a lot in like Colorado, but it was a lot in New Jersey, where I spent my summers and everything. And since I've been out in Utah, I've caught I caught a whiff of it like every once in a while, like very randomly.
Interesting.
Just like maybe once every 2 or 3 years, and it just all of a sudden, like, I'm like right back there, summer in New Jersey, and I just can't pinpoint it. Like, a lot of times when it happens, I'm like doing something with other people, so I can't be like, hold up, I gotta sniff these bushes. I gotta figure out where this smell's coming from. What is this called? Do you live here? Is this your bush? Did you plant this? I need to know. I'm taking a sample of it.
And all your friends are like, who is this guy and why do we hang out with him?
Yeah, what is he doing ruffling through my shrubbery here? But yeah, that's like one of the biggest ones. Just takes me back. The other one I think we've touched on here on this podcast is your parents' bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
Your parents' bathroom has a not a bad, but a very unique scent to it. And it just reminds me of when you had
That's interesting.
the Dixie cups in the bathroom. You had the little plastic dispenser attached to the wall, and you had the little paper Dixie cups to like rinse, when you're brushing your teeth and stuff like that. That's as far back as it takes me.
Nice.
So
that dispenser is still on the wall.
Right.
And my mom still buys, but now plastic cups to go in there. So there you go. All you plastic people, don't come after me.
All you plastic people or anti-plastic people.
That's more, yeah, you know what I meant.
People made of plastic. All you plastics.
Please.
Yeah.
We don't want to turn you into cups. That's not our goal.
What's your scent trigger?
Well, one that I get a lot, not a lot, but more often than not, or more often than not. Okay, still not the thing I was trying to say. The smell that I get
quite often,
yeah, it happens more often than some, but still rare enough that is an old people smell.
Old people smell. Okay.
It's not old people necessarily, but it's aged house smell, I think is what it is. And so sometimes you'll get it in like a nursing home or but usually it's more like I usually smell it in like an old house where people have lived there, the same people for a long time, or whatever, and I don't know what it is, but it reminds me of my grandma's house, and they had lit my grandma. Okay, so just a little history here. My grandma, uh, was
This
she
is your dad.
born?
Your dad's mom.
This is my mom's mom.
Oh, your mom's
She
mom. Okay.
My mom's mom. She was, I want to say, born in the house. Please correct me,
Ooh.
family, if I'm wrong, but she lived in that house her whole life. She never moved. So her parents owned the house when she was a kid, and then when she got married, they gave them, I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, family, they gave them the house as like a wedding present, and they lived there after they were married until she died. So, like, she lived in that house literally her whole life.
And she died at 80, 90. What was she?
90 something, 90. Sorry, family. I want to say.
Sorry.
I want to say 93. I don't know if that's right. But early 90s, I think. Been through a lot of different remodels and stuff. That house, it was, but obviously it's an old house, and I don't know. It had an interesting smell to it, but not a unique smell because, like I say, I get it every now and then. It's very weird. So it reminds me of my childhood though, because we went again, kind of like you. We went there a lot in the summers, not every summer, but a lot of summers as a kid. We went there, and specifically, it reminds me of sleeping in their living room in sleeping bags. Yeah. So, and or sitting in their. So they sat and watched TV in their room. They had a pretty big room, and I would go and sit on the floor and watch like Price is Right and stuff with my grandparents. So, so yeah, reminds me of that. Strangely enough, I never seem to watch the show at home, so it also reminds me of Carmen Sandiego, the original TV show.
Right.
I'd always somehow watch it there and never at home. Classic.
Yep.
So yeah,
she
so
creeps around the world from Belize to Carolina. She's a sticky finger felcher from the... Anyway.
So it's an interesting smell because I experienced so many things at their house at a pretty impressionable age. I must be, because it connects to lots of stuff. Like you mentioned the bathroom, and then I immediately smelled her bathroom, my grandma's bathroom that we would use when we were there, which was, it didn't have a tub, it was just a shower, and I wasn't used to that because we just had a tub shower at our house, and it was just like an enclosed shower, and it was always kind of a weird thing for me. But it was a different smell than the house because in the summer the window in the bathroom was always open, so you got a little bit of like the smell from the yard with like like flowers and stuff, kind of, I think, summer breeze kind of in the bathroom with the bathroom smell. So again, kind of a unique thing, but you reminded me of that when the interesting thing is, because I'm so used to my parents' bathroom, even though I have for
been
majority of my life now not lived there, right? It doesn't, like, I don't even register what that smell is. I have no idea what you're referring to.
Right.
So,
well,
anyways.
the kind of interesting thing, like as you mentioned, it's people that have been in a house for a long time, and oddly enough, for me, that it is a very different smell than just an old house.
Yes.
Because, like, I don't know what it is. Like you said, I mean, it's been remodeled, and updates and whatever, new carpet every once in a while, all that kind of stuff. So it's not like if this house was sold, 15 times or 10 times in the last, 90 years, right?
Right.
It's gone through however many people. It would have a different smell than a house that has the same updates, the same, but just the same people living in it.
I concur completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird because it's just kind of like you also know when nobody's lived there for a long time.
Right.
Like I haven't been through like a ton of old houses and things like that, but it is different. Like when someone's been there for a long time, when it's just been occupied by multiple people, or when it's just been nobody's been in there, but the house could be the exact same age and have the exact kind of treatment and stuff like that. It's weird.
Right. That is interesting.
Yeah.
So,
speaking of people that go into a lot of houses and stuff like that, and back to shout out, I would be interested what Ray would say to this, because Ray.
Oh yeah.
Ray with his business, junk removal and stuff like that.
You've been in a lot of houses.
You get in a lot of houses and you get in deep. You're going downstairs to a basement. You're going through the house multiple times to get to the backyard, that kind of stuff and everything like that. So I wonder what his crew is kind of thinking on that, because it might be like, yep, this person lived here for a long time and now they don't, and now we're moving all of their stuff for one reason or another. So, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Interesting take on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, there you go. Any other smells that jump out at you, or?
No, those are the ones that definitely just like right back. Right. I'm trying to think if there's anything, because there's not like any necessarily like food I can think of.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say Robin's chip dip definitely brings me back. Or I don't know if
can of SpaghettiOs.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever had. Did you ever? Okay, so Robin had chip dip. So there's my mom's Susie's cheese dip, which you're familiar with.
I made it the other day, by the way.
Oh, good. There's Susie's cheese dip. There's Robin's chip dip, which is 3 ingredients. It is literally just cream cheese, a tiny bit of onion that's blended, so, no worries. And just a dash of milk to kind of smooth it out. But it's a weird balance of, ratios. And so when I'm making that, I remember being, a little kid and, staring over the blender and... Because, you can't do this with modern blenders, which kind of pisses me off a lot of times. But the way to get chip dip to the right consistency is you get your blender, your old school blender with the cap on top and the little clear plastic insert thing. You pour in a little bit of milk and just a sliver of onion, and I'm talking not half an onion, not a quarter of an onion. I'm talking a sliver of onion. And then you cut the cream cheese, get a 8-ounce brick of cream cheese, and you cut it into little strips, and you just start adding that in. And it's just this balance between the cream cheese, the milk, and the onion to get this thing. But to make sure you have the right consistency, you have the blender going and you're looking at it through the top. And if you can run a butter knife just along, as it's vortexing down, if you could run the butter knife and it just basically kind of cuts through, and then that part gets sucked in quicker than the part that's behind it, it's ready. So too thin, add some more cream cheese. Too thick, add a little bit of just a dash more milk. Let it blend for a second, and you kind of get that balance, and then you know you got it. But that takes me back to learning how to do that and not put anything in too deep while the blender's going. That's just going to shred up your knife or your spatula or something. So definitely that smell takes me back.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nice, man.
Yeah. Anything else that...
I don't know. I kind of threw out SpaghettiOs, which was kind of a joke, but I definitely, if I smell a can of SpaghettiOs, I'm like, I'm a child. I need some. I need some hot dogs, please.
I need some hot dogs. No, it's good.
So, yeah, man. So, So anyway, what's the new with you this week?
The new with me is, I don't think I mentioned this book already. The book called The Gift of Fear. Did we talk about this?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I've started listening to this book on Audible, called The Gift of Fear. I'm sure by somebody that I can't name right now.
Kudos to the author.
Yeah, very bad citation right now.
I'll pull it up for you so we can give.
The
what
Gift
is
of
it called?
Fear by Gavin DeBecker.
Oh, I was there. I had it.
Yeah. But it's this guy that has studied and consulted on the warning signs, the survival signals, as he calls them, for anywhere from like assassinations to domestic abuse, domestic violence, that kind of stuff, and just like terrorist attacks and all this kind of different stuff. And so he illustrates the fact that we innately, like we were talking about with catching the frisbee or hitting the fastball, like we have so much innate recognition of fear, of danger, but we as humans have learned to rationalize it out so much. It's in looking back that we're like, I mean,
that was kind of scary.
I didn't, I noticed that the door was like open when I like walked in, and I thought to myself like, oh, that's creepy. But then I'm like, ugh, I'm an idiot. I probably left it open, and whatever. And then, there was already somebody in the house, like I couldn't hear my dog barking, or, all these little things like come out after the fact.
Right.
But his big thing is, if you can recognize them after, then you recognize them then, and you need to be more aware of that.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And stuff like that. And he said, like, in the majority of my interviews, people are like, well, how could I have avoided that? Like, what were the warning signs? And he's like, well, walk me through what happened. It's like, okay, well, and the story goes just kind of like I said. It's like, well, I came home and nothing was out of the ordinary except for, I had noticed that like the mail wasn't in the mailbox. So I was like, that's weird. And it's like the mail, like, and so like all these little things, it's like, yeah, like you just need to like, and he talks about it a lot with, domestic violence and stalkers and stuff like that, where people, this one lady he was talking to, it's like, how do I recognize, like a boy, like when I'm dating somebody like that, they're going to be like Psycho, right? This is kind of like from How I Met Your Mother, like the crazy eyes, you know,
Uh-huh. The hot
like
crazy scale.
yeah, the hot crazy scale, the crazy eyes, that kind of stuff. Like, but she like lays out this whole thing on like, well, he asked me out like several times and I kept saying no, but he was so polite and so insistent that I said yes. But then he was kind of like joking about like marriage and kids just on our first date, you know, nothing major. But then it got like more and more serious, and then he like started like pressuring me, like, when are we gonna do this and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, and so she's laying out like, well, I recognized it on our first date, like, oh, that's kind of weird, but then, you know, it just gets exacerbated and
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 like,
worse
well, that
and
was
stuff
it.
like that.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's like, so what are the warning signs? Like, what should I look out for? It's like, literally everything you just told me is exactly what you need to look out for.
Everything that you were like, that was kind of strange. How about you? Yeah. Interesting.
Right. And the biggest thing that I am interested in is the people's politeness outweighs their survival instincts a lot of times. And that's what a lot of people prey on, like Ted Bundy and stuff like that, is, you know, if you get in an elevator and somebody's like creeping you out, you should just be like, I'll take the next one. It's like,
I'm
what?
out. Right.
It's like what? When I'm not going to attack you. And it's just like, that's exactly what an attacker would say. You know, like so many of the people he talks to and the people he interviews and stuff like that, and we're like, well, I didn't want to offend the person, or I thought like I was being silly in thinking this person's weird or creepy or whatever, and I didn't want them to think that I, you know, thought they were creepy or whatever. And it's like, who cares?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
At this, like, and that's kind of it, is there's certain moments when you should just go with the caution and just be like, yeah, I'm gonna clutch my purse and I'm gonna run the rest of the way back down till I get to my apartment. I don't care if this guy's like, wow, that lady like probably thought I was like stalking her. Like, what a freak. It's just like, good for her. Like, you know, she gets out of a situation she's uncomfortable with, and that person didn't attack her. Whether they were going to or not isn't really the issue. And that's kind of what he mentioned something interesting, like, we have tons of, we have like a great judicial system, but a lot less preventative measures. Like, we'll hunt, you know, a murderer down as much as we can, but there's less to do with somebody who hasn't murdered somebody, you know? Like, trying to stop somebody before they get to that point. And he said something, he says, we have suicide hotlines, but we don't have homicide hotlines. Like, I think this person's trying to kill me. Or I am like thinking of killing this person, help stop me, or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right. And
he said that there was this one police officer that he knew that opened like a domestic violence, like a support group kind of a thing, like this big national like domestic violence investigations and stuff like that. But that guy literally as a child tried to murder his stepdad because his stepdad was like, you know, was, you know, beating them and all that kind of different stuff. Like he and his brother like sat down and they're like, we can't get a gun. We're too young. Stabbing him won't work because he's bigger and stronger than us. So they poisoned his wine that he drank every night, but he like got really sick and survived. So like the fact that he survived, like, it was just a traumatic incident for this young man, but he literally tried to kill him. So there's no real difference. Like, murderers are, you know, not to say normal people, but they're, you know, out there. Just sometimes they've just failed, and so
Right.
it's just interesting that he's trying to say, like, you know, don't judge a book by its cover, but do, you know, like, don't assume it's
Right.
don't judge a book by its cover, meaning the book isn't going to be obvious, but if you do see these subtle things, just get out of there. Just, it's better to offend somebody than to be attacked by them,
Right.
is kind of a big message through it. So anyway, so
Crazy.
The Gift of Fear, it's cool.
Crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. What's your new? What's new to do?
Okay. Well, I've recently watched The Queen's Gambit on Netflix.
Oh,
Have
okay.
you seen this at all yet?
I have not.
Okay. Well, that's not really the point. The point is, the point
New
is,
topic.
I watched it. I enjoyed it, but most of all, I was like, I should play chess, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so I have started playing on chess.com.
Okay.
And let me see how many games I got here.
You have multiple going at once?
No. Just how many I've played. All right, so I've only played a total of 11 games. This is in like the rapid category, which you can change how long, but these are all 10-minute games, so we each have 10 minutes to go through.
Mm-hmm. So it's a 20-minute game then?
No. You have a limit of
5 minutes each?
10 minutes per your turns. So,
Right.
So no, because it's whoever hits 10 first, right? So it might be closer to 20 minutes altogether, but but it's like the clock, right? So when it's my turn, my 10 minutes is clicking down, and if no one's checkmated and I run out of clock first, then I lose.
Right, but I mean, like, it could get up to 19 minutes and 59 seconds. Like, somebody could have used almost all of their time, and you use your full 10 minutes, kind of.
Right, if you are super even.
Right.
Yeah, I suppose if you're only a second off, then yes, it could do that. So of my 11 games, I've won 8 games. Now you're matched with people who have a comparable ranking to yourself,
Right.
in these types of games here. So, but yeah. So I've interestingly enough, I do much better when I'm black than when I'm white. Won 6 games as black, only 2 games as white. So,
and remind me, which goes first?
White goes first. So white should have the advantage, but I seem to do better when I'm defending. I haven't analyzed the chess.com is interesting. You do have I haven't paid for the subscription or whatever, but you get an analyzing per day if you want to use it for one of your games. You can go back and have it analyzed by the computer, and it says, well, this was a bad move, or this was a good move, or this was a kind of thing. And they're like, this was a bad move. What are like, this is a blunder. Like, that's like the worst, like that, or like a mistake. An inaccuracy is like next step up, not as bad. So it uses all this, but it gives you like what the computer would think analyzing the game would have been your better move in that sense. So, anyways, I had some good games. The last game I played was so good that I'm almost afraid to play a new game. I had a ranking. I had an accuracy ranking of 92.4.
Jeez.
So almost all of my moves were like the best moves that you could do in a given moment. Let me look at it real quick. I had no mistakes, no blunders, no missed wins.
How many moves? Does it say how many moves you had?
Yes. Yeah, let me pull up the game report and I'll tell you what it is.
Because I'm just kind of to gauge, like if you're at 92 and there's like 20 moves,
So I mated him in 10.
Oh wow.
10 moves, and that's together. So each one of our moves is count, right? So I move, he moves.
5
that's
moves.
one.
Wow.
I move. Well, no, not really. They count as a collective, right? So I move, he moves. That's one.
Oh.
I move, he moves.
Okay, gotcha.
That's two, right? So I was white, so he didn't get a 10th move. So it's like 9.5 if you want to think of it that way. But I got 10 moves, so then you can't think of it that way. Anyways,
right.
But yeah, I came out. He made. I don't know. I'm just looking through here. He pulled his queen out so fast. Pulled his queen out on the 4th move to put pressure on me. He's black, right? So he's like trying to be offensive quick, but then made some dumb moves in the middle game. And
can you see his blunders and stuff? Will it analyze like
yeah. So
it
exactly. So yeah, there's like he pulls his queen out, and then almost right after it, the next 2 moves that he makes are like inaccurate moves. Like they're not bad moves, but they're not good moves either. We can't classify it as a good move, but it's not like a mistake necessarily. So inaccuracy. So he's made 2 of those, and then he made a huge mistake. On the 7th move, I put him in check with my bishop, and he took it with his queen. He had nothing protecting his queen at all. He took it, and I just took his queen. Like, move 8, I take his queen, and then it takes me 2 moves after that to
checkmate him.
Him. He only had like 2 pieces out from their starting position. 3 pieces out.
He was just going hard with the queen.
He went hard with the queen and didn't back her up whatsoever. So anyways, that's my best game. And again, I'm like, I'm a little afraid to play again because I'm not going to be that good. I have a ranking currently of 802, which is not great. But, with 11 games, you start as a 400. A beginner is a 400 ranking. So I've at least doubled my rank.
Okay.
Within 11 games. So anyways, it's interesting. I don't know. I never was one of those guys that was like in the chess club or studied the theory of it or whatever, but I watched that show and now I'm like, well, what is the Sicilian defense? And what is this? And what is the Queen's Gambit? Well, and that's the thing, like I took like the easy chess courses because this chess.com also provides you like a certain amount of courses per week or something that they have lessons and stuff that you can follow along with. And I got to the one about en passant and I was like, I don't need to. I'll watch it just cause, but yeah, anyways, there's some weird rules and stuff. So it's weird. I've started like some guy, now that I've watched that show, like some chess dudes are popping up on YouTube and stuff. And I'm not watching them, so I don't know. So, anyways, that's the new thing for now. Trying to, it's a good quarantine brain workout. It's no telekinesis, but it's a little bit of chess. So there
Yeah.
you go.
I want to see somebody out of COVID spending 2 weeks just working on telekinesis with chess. There you go. Just start it out. Just
There
get your
you go.
chessboard.
Get it going. Exactly.
Yeah. Just moving those pieces with your mind.
Exactly.
Yeah. And be afraid of that person. For sure.
Exactly. That's a lot of brain power. Moving chess pieces and mating, checkmate.
Mm-hmm.
I win.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. No, that's way cool. I mean, I learned chess as a child.
Yeah.
And got into it with Star Wars chess.
Oh.
On Windows, a Windows computer. It was a
Uh-huh.
CD-ROM
Nice.
game. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but it just... it was so ridiculous because every time you captured a piece, the computer would play a little cutscene of those two pieces fighting, right?
Uh-huh.
And stormtroopers were the pawns, and R2-D2s were the pawns on the light side.
Okay.
And if a stormtrooper took a R2-D2, then he just the stormtrooper shoots R2-D2, and R2-D2 is and starts smoking, right?
Uh-huh.
And everything. Falls over, I think. If R2-D2 takes a stormtrooper, the animation literally, the stormtrooper shoots at him and misses, and then R2-D2 puts out this little arm, and this little disc kind of just folds out, like this little CD looking size thing just folds out, and the stormtrooper aims directly for that, hits it, and the laser bounces back and kills the stormtrooper.
Nice.
And I'm like, you missed this giant trash can looking thing twice, but you managed to hit this one spot that he wanted you to hit, and you killed yourself. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Whatever.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But yeah, so I played a lot against computers and stuff like that, and then tried to get some chess games going from through the mail and everything.
Uh-huh.
Never finished a game through the mail. When I was in Canada, we came up with spiral chess.
Uh-huh.
That is, instead of a grid board, you have a spiral grid, but after laying it all out and play testing it, it gave the rooks too much power because they could essentially get to any spot on the board. Just because, since it's like a spiral, and they travel just laterally, it gave them ultimate power, essentially.
Nice.
It was weird. And then, but I do have 3-person chess that I've yet to find people to play with. So,
ooh, dude, I'll play. I'm in.
Let's do it.
I'm in. So
right.
It's very interesting. You mentioned an old video game, and then I thought of something that I thought I'd just mention real quick.
Oh, and Chessmaster 2000. Oh.
Chessmaster 2000. Nice.
Yeah.
Did you ever, back in the day, play the classic Chex video game, Chex Quest?
Chex? The cereal?
Yes, the cereal. They made a computer game back in the 90s. And no, I don't remember how you got it or anything like that. I'm sure I could look it up and read about it. But there was a Chex video game. It's like a Doom knockoff kind of game. It was awesome. This is a game that I haven't thought about in years. I didn't beat a lot of video games as a kid, let alone a lot of computer video games. But I did beat Chex Quest back in the day.
Chex Quest. All right, I'm seeing it here.
So I'm in the store. No, I'm a gas station last night, picking up some snacks or whatever. I'm just looking through the aisle. I see the Chex Mix bags, and it's got the dude on in the front from the Chex Quest game. And I'm like, no way. They brought back Chex Quest.
Like in the blue suit? With like the...
Yeah.
Yeah. And the two tanks on the back to shoot milk or whatever he's shooting.
Yeah. So anyways, they have they have remastered it or whatever. I don't know. I haven't looked, but like you can now on Steam go download Chex Quest for free and play it. And it looks like, it's a new revamped version of it. So anyways, there you go. For all of you who remember Chex Quest, probably don't. But it has, it's a Chex Quest HD. It's a new thing. It's out there. You can download it. You can play it now. Chex are not just for eating anymore. So
apparently you got it, according to this Reddit thread, you got it with AOL, like those AOL CD-ROMs.
Yes.
So
that's definitely it.
You get like your 50 free hours, quote unquote, of AOL, and you download this game at the same time, or you have this game at the same time.
There you go, man. Anyways, hilarious.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, cool, guys.
Cool. All right. Well, all the stuff we said at the beginning, insert here. And you guys take it easy. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Hey, guys, we really appreciate everyone listening and enjoying. Hope you guys engage with us. Send us our stuff. Send us the stuff. Let us know how you think things work.
Send us our stuff. If you got our stuff, give it back.
We want our stuff back.
Yeah, so. And reach out if you want to play tag on chess.com. I don't know if you can invite each other to games.
You definitely look me up. My name is GeorgioFountaine on chess.com.
On checks. Perfect.
I'll put it.
Yeah.
I'll tag it. I'll tag my name as a hashtag in this episode. GeorgioFountaine. Find me on chess.com if you want to play.
Perfect. All right. True crew to the end. Talk to you.
Bye.